Time for the markets now with Leighton. And Leighton, the monthly cattle on feed report is out.
And we'll be talking about what those numbers may mean for the beef sector coming up. Also ahead in the markets this week, the real surprise of those June 12th crop reports. Cotton prices lose momentum, and the recent Smithfield sale to China may help the U.S. pork market. We start by discussing the government's latest crop and supply demand reports and what the numbers may mean for the corn and soybean markets. Extension Ag economist John Michael Riley says that while national corn yield was reduced, the acreage number was unchanged from the May report, and that was a real surprise. Well, let's begin, John Michael, with new crop corn, and their yield was actually reduced, projected yield.
That's right, about a bushel and a half smaller. It's at 156.5 bushels per acre is the projected yield for the nation. Many were looking for the yield number to actually increase very marginally. Obviously, we're talking about a long way out, but some were the average of analyst estimates were looking for that number to increase. USDA actually decreased that number, but so yeah, 156.5 is where we're currently sitting with a projected yield.
Now the new crop acreage, that was not changed at all.
That's right. That's where the real surprise came. Many expected the acres number to be decreased by 2 million acres, largely due to the fact that planting has been so slow, so much rain, so cold, such a cold spring. All of these factors combined, I think there was an expectation that people switched away from corn. USDA is always hesitant to make sweeping changes this early in the season until we get better information to make those judgment calls. And to be honest, given the big demand for corn, I think you're talking about moving away from a fairly high value crop. So I'm not surprised that USDA did not make that change, but the industry was looking for that to take place.
So there's always a possibility we could see that happen down the road in another USDA report.
End of this month we get the acreage or the final acreage report, so we'll know a lot more about where that sits the June 30th or whenever the end of the month when that report is released.
All right, let's talk about soybeans a minute. Both old and new crop, no changes there in the projections.
That's right, and there was an expectation that some of those corn acres that were going to be gone would switch over to soybeans, so they thought of 1 million extra acres of soybeans, a slight reduction in yield. Neither of those came to fruition, and so across the board for the new crop soybeans, no changes were made. It's currently sitting at a 265 bushel ending stock number, carryover number, so that was where we were at last month.
But it's still a tight situation for beans, right?
It remains tight. It's loosening up from where we are right now, but it will remain a very tight situation.
December cotton futures remained in the red Thursday morning. Supporting the down move was a Wednesday acreage estimate from a Memphis private firm anticipating an increase in U.S. plantings from the March intentions report. DTN analyst Darren Newsom notes that the cotton rally was contra-seasonal to begin with. In this market-to-market interview, Newsom says he is expecting a loss of momentum, which indeed has happened.
We just continue to see the ending stocks of cotton continue to be whittled back for as far as the new crop goes. So we've got a great deal of commercial buying coming in. Again, the D-Smart spread has really has moved to a very strong inverse, indicating a lot of concern over supply and demand. So you add that into some money coming back into the cotton market short term on the idea we're going to have tighter supplies, and it's been enough to push the market higher. Can it maintain this rally? If it does, it'll be a bit of a contra-seasonal move. So I would not be surprised to see it lose a little bit of momentum in here, start to come under some pressure again, maybe having nothing to do with supply and demand, more to do with the flow in and out of markets from investors.
We prepared a transition to the livestock side of the markets with a trivia quiz for you about Mississippi's dairy industry. June is Dairy Month after all. And here's the quiz question. What was the top milk producing county in Mississippi in 2012? Is the answer A, Marion, or B, Marshall, C, Lincoln, or D, Walthall? You'll find out the right choice before our feature story. The expectation ahead of the Friday afternoon cattle on feed report was that it should show tighter numbers. Well, Dow Jones Newswires reported traders see placements onto feed during May at 95.9% of a year ago on improved pasture conditions and fewer imports from Mexico. Their analysis does note that any bullishness from the numbers could be muted by high feed prices and increased numbers of market-ready cattle by late summer. Meanwhile, for analyst Don Roos, the situation for the broader cattle sector can be boiled down to one question. Is beef going to lose market share? Here's how he sees it.
The feeder cattle supplies, are pretty tight. They're going to be tight going forward. But the whole beef situation boils down to what's the consumer going to bear, and do we lose market share going forward? And all of that's going to be something that we're going to sort out in the marketplace going forward. I think what we're going to find is that beef is still going to be very much in big demand.
This month began with the news that a Virginia-based hog producer, the world's largest, is being acquired by a Chinese company. Analyst John Roach says he believes the situation is good for hog producers and the U.S. pork industry as a whole.
They've had problems with food quality and adulterated food and so forth. And so purchasing a brand, an American brand that is very well respected in this country, will be very well respected in China. And that's probably the biggest opportunity in this transaction, is that now you have a branded product that you can sell in China, and maybe even some Chinese pork under that brand, but that branding opportunity is probably the biggest advantage, and I think that helps the U.S. pork market as well as helping the Chinese.
Before our feature story, let's check the trivia answer for the week, and the correct choice is A. Marion County produced 28 million pounds of milk in 2012, and that puts Marion in the #1 slot as far as milk production in Mississippi.